but we were talking about that when, the first record with Brooks and Dunn, I think they just continue to expand.
What if everything you thought you knew about Brooks and Dunn's breakup was a lie at 72? Battling health issues and looking back on a legendary career, Ronnie Dunn just dropped a bombshell and it's rocked Nashville to its core. Forget burnout, forget the press releases. This is the real reason country's greatest duo split in 2009. And even Kix Brooks never saw it coming. Don't blink, don't scroll. And whatever you do, don't faint. Hit that like button, subscribe, and buckle up because the truth behind Brooks and Dunn is deeper, darker, and more human than anyone ever imagined. For Ronnie Dunn, music wasn't a dream, it was survival. Born on June 1, 1953, in the tiny town of Coleman, Texas, he grew up pulled between two very different worlds. His father, a rugged truck driver, played honky-tonk guitar and drank hard. His mother, deeply religious, filled their home with gospel and strict Baptist values. One night, Ronnie was watching his dad perform in smoky bars. The next, he was in church singing hymns. That clash of worlds never left him. It made his voice ache with emotion, made his lyrics cut deep. Stability wasn't something Ronnie knew. By the time he graduated, he'd attended 13 schools across Texas and Oklahoma. Each town brought a new sound: blues, gospel, country. He collected music like postcards. And while most kids dreamed of electric guitars, Ronnie joined the school band and learned the saxophone. He studied rhythm, melody, and movement. At night, his dad would show him chords after a long day in the oil fields. That wasn't a music lesson. That was grit. That was heart. In the early 1970s, Ronnie thought maybe he'd take a safer path. He enrolled at Abilene Christian University to study psychology. But the pull of music was too strong. He started sneaking out to play in bars. That didn't sit well with the school, and eventually, they kicked him out. He could have quit there. Instead, he doubled down. While in school, he'd also served as a youth minister and music leader at a small church in Aoka. That spiritual side stayed with him. Gospel wasn't a genre to Ronnie, it was home. Even as he dove deeper into the bar scene, that faith never left his voice. By the early 1980s, Ronnie had moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma, a city on fire with music. The clubs were packed. The energy was electric. He performed night after night, sometimes for crowds of over 1,000 people. It wasn't glamorous, it was hard. But it taught him the most important rule in country music: if your song doesn't make people feel, it's worthless. In 1988, a twist of fate changed everything. A drummer named Jamie Oldacre, who'd played with Eric Clapton and Bob Seger, spotted a Marlboro talent search form at a gas station and submitted Ronnie's name without asking. Ronnie didn't take it seriously, but he sent in a demo anyway. That demo included rough versions of Boot Scootin' Boogie and Neon Moon. He made the finals. He won. That win led to a trip to Nashville, where he met producer Scott Hendricks, who introduced him to Rista Records' Tim DuBois. And that's when DuBois had the crazy idea: pair Ronnie with another artist named Kix Brooks. Neither man was interested. They didn't know each other. They weren't looking for a partner. But over a reluctant lunch, something clicked. A few songwriting sessions later, they had already written Brand New Man and My Next Broken Heart. On August 13th, 1991, they released Brand New Man. It was a meteor. For straight singles, hit #1, Brand New Man, Boot Scootin' Boogie, My Next Broken Heart, and Neon Moon. The album sold 7 million copies in the US. Boot Scootin' Boogie kicked off a line dancing craze across America. Neon Moon became a heartbreak anthem, but success didn't come easy. Back in the early 80s, Ronnie had signed with MCA's Churchill label and released the singles. Both peaked at number 59. Decent, but not enough. He kept grinding, playing small clubs, writing songs nobody wanted. By 1990, both he and Kix Brooks, then in their 40s, were ready to quit. They'd each failed as solo artists, but together, they were unstoppable. They had contrast Ronnie's smooth, emotional delivery balanced by Kix's grit and charisma. They could sing across nearly 3 octaves. Ronnie's ballads could break your heart. Kix could turn a concert into a party, and the awards rolled in. Between 1992 and 2006, they won CMA Vocal Duo of the Year for Teen Times a Record. They weren't just stars. They were machines. Album after album went multi-platinum. Songs like My Maria, Red Dirt Road, and Ain't Nothing About You became cultural staples. In 2001, Ain't Nothing About You was the most played song on country radio. Their live shows were legendary. Packed arenas, pyrotechnics, country with the power of rock. Fans didn't just listen, they screamed, danced, and lived the music. But all that success came at a cost. From 1991 to 2009, Brooks and Dunn were unstoppable. They released 11 studio albums and 50 singles, constantly touring, writing, and recording. But behind the curtain, the toll was growing. They began recording separately, choosing different producers. The energy they once shared had thinned. It wasn't drama, it was exhaustion. Years of non-stop work had drained the magic. By the late 90s, industry insiders were already whispering about tension. There were near breakups, close calls. Still, they pushed on, not for themselves but for the fans. In 2009, they finally made the call. The legacy would end. On September 3, 2010, at Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, they performed together one last time. But for Ronnie Dunn, that final show marked something deeper: the loss of identity. He wasn't just leaving a band. He was stepping off a train he'd ridden for 2 decades. On June 7, 2011, Ronnie released his solo debut, Ronnie Dunn. It hit #1 on the country charts and cracked the Billboard 200's top 5, but the world had moved on. Younger artists dominated the airwaves. Ronnie felt invisible. Radio ignored him. Confidence crumbled. So he changed course. In 2014, he launched his own label, Little Willie Records, and released Peace, Love, and Country Music, an experimental album fusing country with rock, blues, and even EDM. Then came his haunting 2016 cover of Ariana Grande's Tattooed Heart, a stunning surprise. In 2020, he returned with Ronnie Dunn, a heartfelt tribute to his heroes like George Strait and Tom Petty. Ronnie was no longer chasing hits, he was reclaiming himself. Then came the reunion. In 2015, Brooks and Dunn joined Reba McEntire for a Las Vegas residency. The show, Together in Vegas, was a smash. More than 300,000 tickets sold, earning over $50 million. In 2019, they released Reboot, an album of duets with younger stars like Casey Musgraves, Luke Combs, Kane Brown, and Thomas Rhett. It hit #1. On October 20th, 2019, they were inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. In 2024, Ronnie took a terrifying fall while skiing in Colorado. He needed a total knee replacement. The surgery lasted 12 hours. Then, just as he was recovering, he caught COVID-19 and strep throat. He was on vocal rest, steroids, antibiotics. Fans began noticing something different. Ronnie was sitting on stage, struggling to breathe, at one show in Indianapolis. He stopped singing mid-song and walked off. He later admitted, "I'm still fighting respiratory issues." He promised fans he wasn't quitting, but he was hurting. Videos showed him pushing through, even when his body was failing. The honesty only made fans love him more. Through it all, one thing remained constant: his family. Ronnie married Janine in 1990, the same year Brooks and Dunn began. Together, they raised 3 children and have 5 grandchildren on their 600-acre farm near Nashville. He finds peace fishing, photographing wildlife, and enjoying life away from the spotlight. Ronnie Dunn never chased fame, he chased truth. Whether through music or the lens of a camera, he's always told real stories. And that's why he still matters. If this legacy moved you, like, share, and subscribe. Because legends like Ronnie Dunn don't fade, they evolve, and their story deserves to be heard. Thanks for watching.